Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor, and it's good to be live streaming again. It's been a bit since the last time I've live streamed. I think since the election of Donald J. Trump. So this is a very similar episode in the sense that we're going to be talking about more about the election and mostly just the inauguration and what it might mean. Where is this American golden age going? Is there going to be an American golden age? Basically that Trump has set out this idea for a golden age, and we're going to discuss that and sort of basics of the inauguration and my sort of takeaways from this whole event, because it's a big event in our nation, even though most people aren't really participating. Obviously, there's a sizable population that are, watch the inauguration and participate that way. But really, there's just a small group of people that are participating in the big event on Capitol Hill. So, but first, I want to talk about the fact that I'm going to be sort of rearranging a schedule or putting together a schedule for the future of Plotlines, and that is going to start officially next week. But I wanted to foreshadow it a little bit because I'm going to be doing a live stream a week and basically 2 videos that will be released on usually Monday and Wednesday, and then I'll live stream on Fridays. But it's kind of reverse this week because of the inauguration. I just want to break it down live today for everyone, and just kind of enjoy the things to be enjoyed and obviously criticize the things that need to be criticized. Now, first of all, obviously Biden is leaving or has left the position of president. He was basically a decaying corpse in the position of president. And, I think that is sort of symbolizing the state of our country. And of course, Trump is by no means perfect or anything. His returning to the White House, though, seems to be sort of a triumphant victory for this, protagonist. If you could imagine a movie about this, he had his triumphant, surprising victory in 2016, and then he had a disastrous sort of defeat in 2020. Whether you believe the election was stolen or not, you still have sort of the results that came into effect in 2020, and then this, the assassination attempts and him getting shot in the ear, almost getting killed, and then he has he has come back into what you'd imagine would be his rightful place as the president of the United States. But so first of all, one of the things that caught my attention in the beginning of the inauguration was the first 2 people that really speak are these female, I think they're senators or representatives, Amy Klobuchar and then a Republican. And it just shows you that the gravitas of our leadership is very low. It's very good that Biden didn't speak, obviously, or Kamala Harris or somebody like that, because then it would have even been a much bigger train wreck. But it really takes away from the gravitas, the sense of, the sense of beauty that could be provided through something like an inauguration. And one of the things that struck me is this type of thing has been going on. We've had inaugurations, obviously, since Washington, and it's very much in the manner of a coronation. I think Steve Cunningham tweeted out that, this is that is basically a coronation day. On inauguration day, we basically have a king or a president as a king when it comes to his powers. And while that's not entirely true, it does give the idea that America is not that far away from the idea of a monarch. It's just that our Republican traditions prevent that from taking place, of course. So it's sort of, we've taken um, some of the outside aspects, sort of the, I don't know, the beauty, the pomp and circumstance, some of that from what would be a coronation, though obviously we've sort of turned it into a secular uh, ceremony. And you can see even the secularization of Charles III's coronation when he was coronated, uh, in the sense that you had this Hindu prime minister uh, reading the Bible, which, in some sense, obviously, that's not changed in the fact that he's reading the Bible. That's not a secularization, but having somebody who absolutely has no belief in Christianity participating in that. And you have this hodgepodge of religious leaders also leading, sort of having a quote unquote benediction and stuff like that. Cardinal Dolan participated in. You'd think if this event really mattered to him or something like that, he would have come dressed for the proper occasion. Though, of course, that's just not in our tradition. So therefore, he basically was wearing just a suit. He was wearing his clerical suit, which is incredibly distasteful, I would say, comparatively to something like a cassock or something. But then you could argue, should he be a part of this? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's better to have him participating than Catholics being excluded, but also him being put in the same position as like a rabbi and a bunch of other preachers and stuff like that. He's being put on their same level, of course. In as a Catholic, he has a much higher place. You can say what you want about the man, but the Cardinal Archbishop of New York should have more gravitas, should have more respect, in my opinion, than other sort of random preachers. Or and of course, like, in some ways, he didn't really make things very Catholic. The Cardinal Archbishop could probably really brought more of a Catholic bent to his prayers. Whether, I guess, he could have, like, the fact that I think there was another preacher who kind of really went ham on it, sort of in his style of preaching and that sort of thing. But anyway, so that's sort of one of the first takeaways. But this golden age that Trump has basically proclaimed, it's not really a golden age in the sense of sort of what the America that you would think of. Like, the founders wouldn't probably consider it a golden age, insofar as sort of the status of our society. It's almost really, at least his attempt. You can argue about what he wants to get done and the policies, but what he wants is a revival of the American spirit, which part of that American spirit is Americanism, which is a heresy. So therefore, it's not going to be a pure good thing or anything like that. But at least he's made comments, obviously wanting to shut down the border, and it's expected for him to do so with an executive order and that sort of thing. So we should be looking forward to that, and basically holding his feet to the fire if he fails on that account. But of course, he's really bought into, of course, this sort of the liberal vision of the United States. He kind of views America as a people, but not necessarily, because he basically thinks anybody else can join into America as long as they don't break any of the rules. But of course, that's not really how America is. That's not really the truth. That's sort of liberal propaganda. You can look at his supporters. He has with him at the inauguration. You have all these tech uh, tech CEOs. You have the CEO of Google. You have the CEO of Tesla. Obviously, Elon Musk was very important to his election. You have the CEO of Meta and the CEO of Amazon. You have Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO of, or the creator and CEO of Amazon. And, one of the things is that he kind of, I think he had his girlfriend or something like that. He got divorced and he had her out, with him at the inauguration, or at least what I imagine that's the person he brought. And of course, she was dressed very inappropriate comparatively. And, they're very much not in the spirit of things. If there's anything that we should be doing in such inaugurations, is making the requirements of dress much higher, like raising the style of the inauguration. I don't and that's not my field. I'm not the sort of know-how regarding that. I'm sometimes very casually dressed, like I am right now on my own podcast, and uh sometimes I'm, if the occasion requires it, or if I think it really matters at the moment, and I'm, in the future, I might try to raise my standards even higher as well. And I think it's a good idea that we raise our standards. Obviously, I will dress up for occasions. Though, of course, if you're going to be listening to this as a podcast on Apple Podcasts, you won't know whether or not I'm dressing up or dressing down. But for all of my viewers, that's obvious. But yeah, so it's a very different uh different set, sort of different set of people. It's not as, highbrow. It's very much sort of new money uh coming in and sort of being the support for Donald Trump, and that's who he invited to participate in this inauguration. It's not really. I don't know if like Jamie Dimon or somebody from J.P. Morgan and stuff like that were there, but one of the things that we can see happening is that these are the people that Trump is going to make favorable deals with in order to either, well, obviously benefit them in some way, and it will probably benefit Trump in some way. And hopefully, this is the kind of the big problem is politicians often sort of sell out their own constituents, their own people, in order, when they get these deals. And so that should be an equally concerning thing even with Trump. I don't think that's a sort of surprising thing to say, that Trump is going to work for his benefit and for the benefit of these companies. So whether or not that also means benefit for the people is going to be something important to focus on and to watch. One of the big things he proposes in his golden age plan, basically, is drill baby drill. Like he wants to revive or lower prices of gasoline, drill for oil, that sort of thing. So he's working on sort of the economic systems. And then from a cultural perspective, he declared in his speech that that the United States will only recognize, or that there are only two genders, male and female. Though of course it should be sex, because if anything, from a perspective, it should be the abolishment of gender, in the sense of separation from sex from gender. Those are this, like, sex is one thing. Gender, their idea of gender was that it's a sort of how sex is interpreted, like how male or female is interpreted, or how society views that and stuff like that, which is a whole lot of nonsense. It's just gobbledygook that professors in different programs put forward to confuse people. Basically, it's a tool in order to make social change and to make degeneracy common. One of the more funny things about his speech, you might say, is his desire to rename the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America, which it's kind of goofy. I mean, it's unnecessary. I don't really care about it. It's I think it's probably something for people just to, I don't know, to, kind of like an easy win probably for Trump. He can probably just decree it, and whether or not whether or not people actually use it will be a completely different situation. And or maybe it's just a negotiating technique with Mexico. Maybe he can sit down and say, we're going to make this the Gulf of America and no longer the Gulf of Mexico unless you play ball. And then on the other end of things that we kind of thought he was going to be not necessarily pushing for always, or not very serious about, but his desire to get the Panama Canal back from Panama that we gave. Jimmy Carter handed over the Panama Canal, which of course the United States built the Panama Canal. uh, and so the French had originally tried to build the Panama Canal but failed in the 1800s. And then we basically supported the Panama independence from, I believe it's Colombia. I'm sorry if I am mistaken, but I believe it was Colombia that they were a part of. We basically made sure that their revolution was successful from Colombia in order to then make the Panama Canal. Basically, we, in exchange for getting them separated from Colombia, we built the canal, and that was our canal. And it's a crucial economic pathway for goods traveling between the Pacific and the Atlantic. And if that were to break down, if the Panama was to not care for that, or if they were to, I think the complaint was basically that uh, China is getting access, and if China were to shut off American access to the Panama Canal, that would be a strategic problem. Anyways, so I mean, in some sense, we gave it away in exchange for nothing when we were the ones who built it. So in that way, I really see his point. And obviously, I would not want a war of any kind. I am very much anti-war. I don't want a war for Greenland. I don't want a war for Panama or for the Panama Canal. If there's a way for them to successfully negotiate a return, so at least the Panama Canal can be made to be ensured that it will remain functional and not back up the stuff coming through it. That would be ideal. So, which I don't think, something like, I don't know if we can really trust the Panamanian government to ensure that happens. If it was something like, oh, who is it? El Salvador, something like that. That might be a more. I think that's Bukele's whatever. If Bukele was in charge of the Panama Canal, I think it would be. I think that's somebody we could trust. But then again, some the problem with this type of thing is that leaders in these other countries change, and you never know the competency. And that's also the problem with the United States, is you never know the competency of the future presidents, which is partially what Trump is more meaning with his golden age. I think what he means is that hopefully his election and his policies will provide the opportunity for good leadership to continue. At least, and when I say good, I mean good in his eyes. Not necessarily good in your eyes. You may disagree with him, but in good leadership in his eyes. So maybe I think part of his presidency will be trying to make JD Vance a real partner in his successes. Assuming that there are successes, to be a partner too. But in this partnership, really make him a part of it, instead of what most vice presidents are, which are sort of there for show. Like Mike Pence wasn't really there to really partake in things. Like he probably did a few things, but that wasn't what his responsibility was. It was basically uh, his appointment as vice president was more or less a negotiating tactic with what is known as the religious right, or sort of the evangelical groups, to say this guy is a staunch pro-life activist, or staunch pro-life representative or senator. I can't remember what he was before, or he might have been a governor. I mean, he was from Indiana, but the point is he was staunch pro-life, as well as probably very staunch supporter of Israel. And it seems that JD Vance was not picked to make a certain group happy. He was more picked as maybe a continuation of the MAGA movement. And we'll see, obviously, if that's successful, or if, if he's able to make that happen. But yeah, so I brought up earlier Elon Musk, Trump, his plans for us to go to Mars, plans for us to be able to stick a flag onto Mars and claim it basically as our own, and basically say continue space travel. Which I know there's a lot of people who question whether or not we went to the moon. I don't really care too much. This is one of those things about, like, going to Mars. Do I really care? I don't wanna go to Mars. I know some people do. Or no, actually, I don't know anybody who would tell me, like, "I wanna go to Mars," but I know that there are people out there that exist that are interested in that, and it's really this sort of tech bros and stuff like that, like Elon Musk. So that, like, the cameras panned to Elon Musk when Trump announced his plans to go to Mars. And that just shows, like, his speech has been very much influenced by the support of people like Elon Musk. And that goes the same way about sort of free speech. He talks about uh, stopping the government from, like, getting in the way of free speech. And that's really a nod to something like someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who had brought up basically in the last year or so how the the Biden administration was basically trying to get, you know, COVID disinformation out of or off of Facebook, to censor Americans for speech. And at the same time, this is all happening all over the world. There, especially with European nations. European nations are trying to get tech companies like X and Facebook to censor information that they don't want available for their populace. And the best backing that those CEOs can get is basically the United States being able to say, no, this is sort of how we're going to be doing this," as able to influence maybe the Europeans to sort of drop their pushing for the end of free speech or something like that on these platforms, by negotiating about NATO, because that's one of Trump's big complaints about the Europeans, how they aren't sort of participating in NATO enough, not giving the proper funds, and that America is the one paying for all their security and that sort of thing. So this sort of realignment of sorts isn't so much a new elite or anything like that. It's just a shifting of people to sort of the elite to tackle the issues that are before them or prominent. Sort of a breaking away of certain members of elite to a winning side, because a lot of the times people just want to be a part of a victory. They may be Democrats in spirit or something. They may think like Democrats, but they also don't want to be on the losing side, or they don't want their brands to be destroyed. And that's sort of what sort of Mark Zuckerberg felt like. He was sort of coming into that. That's sort of seemingly the way he was coming at it. He's basically, saying, I please, work with me, help me he almost seemed like he was kind of without admitting fault. That's the thing, is he wouldn't admit fault about, oh, like, I was the one who was also censoring. Like, that's the thing, when he brings up the fact that the United States government was trying to get him to censor members, or citizens of the United States who have freedom of speech. And obviously there's a question of you know private companies censoring people. That's obviously permissible in the way in America. But the question is, okay, but the government can't. So if the government's doing the one that's or pushing for the censorship, then that's a real problem. And that's the way Mark Zuckerberg is trying to paint the situation. The situation as, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. But really, he participated in it. He could have said no. He could have made a stink about it at the time and said, no, we have principles. We're not going to, we're not going to bend the knee. But of course, he bent the knee, and only now, as sort of the popular, you know, the population is moves a little bit to the right. And I don't mean much to the right. This is very, Trump really went to the middle in the election. He wasn't really running on a very right wing platform. He didn't talk about abortion very much, except for in the fact that he said he wasn't going to, do a ban, or he said that it wouldn't come to his desk. Basically, he never. I don't know if he actually said that he would not sign a abortion ban, a national abortion ban. I think actually JD Vance said that, but Trump actually only kept repeating the fact that really um, that he just had no. He believes that it will not make it through Congress, probably. Not that I would say he would want to sign an abortion ban. There's a reason why he never said, oh, I would sign an abortion ban. No, he kind of tried to get around the issue because, of course, he's balancing this sort of this coalition of people who want to see abortion banned, or want to save the lives of babies, and those who basically want to put their civil liberties, or whatever that is, to in front of the offspring. Our offspring are important to us according to those people. Well, they don't think they're offspring. I don't know what offspring they would be if they're not human offspring, but it's the messed up mind of a of a um of a left winger, of an abortionist, basically a pro-abortion activist, or even just your standard American. I would say most Americans, obviously most Americans aren't 100% pro-life or anything like that. That's why referendums keep, or yeah, referenda keep getting destroyed, keep getting defeated by the populace whenever they're brought up. So, but that, of course, Trump is being seemingly being pragmatic in his politics, and obviously that was successful in his victory. I don't think if he had made that made it a bigger part of his platform, I don't know if it would have affected things. It may not have affected things, but one of the biggest things that, one of the bigger ads that helped him get across the finish line and have a majority of the country behind him were these transgender ads, basically saying, Kamala doesn't want to protect your children from these, from males who believe that they're females, or not really even. Some of them probably don't believe it. It's just a sort of a fetish. They are going to be in the locker rooms with your young girls, and his argument is basically, nope, that's not going to happen under me. And that's one of the things he's sort of setting out, is that's what he's talking about, is there's only male and female, and uh that that's the kind of thing that he's going to reverse. Of course, one of the crazy things that came out of today was that Joe Biden pardoned the rest of his family, and the rest of his family for all these for crimes that, of course, they haven't been charged with, right? They haven't been charged with crimes, but obviously, if you have to pardon them, what is that really saying? That's basically admission of guilt, that they have committed crimes and they don't want to be held responsible for those crimes. You could argue that the way that somebody like a Biden would try and spin this, though, of course, he can't, and he's done. He's out of office. The only people who would spin it are the media. The way the media might spin it is, oh, fearful of that Donald Trump, he's going to come after us. They're innocent, but we just want to protect our family and stuff like that. That's probably going to be the messaging that comes out of it. And then, but of course, if a court case were ever to come up about the, what's known, some people call the Biden crime family or whatever, is my understanding that with these pardons, they would not be able to plead the fifth. They may not be able to be punished for the crimes that they have committed, assuming that they have them, which I would say is a safe bet. Given the pardons, I don't see why they would need a pardon. They will not be able to plead the fifth. That means they'll have to testify. That means they'll have to give up information, or if they refuse, they would go to jail, or so like that could potentially set them up for either turning on somebody, or hurting somebody else's career. But of course, they personally will be protected. And I don't think Donald Trump has any, real desire to prosecute Joe Biden, which Joe Biden's basically protected from prosecution because he's senile. And that's actually that's what judges, I think, like an investigative, was it a special counsel, basically? A special counsel basically said he was unable to stand trial. He was too far gone to stand trial, but of course he was able to continue out his administration. But yeah, it's quite bizarre, the situation we're in. Of course, I don't really think this is the, from a traditional right-wing perspective, Trump's inauguration, Trump's leadership is just an opportunity to breathe, really. It's not going to be, he promises, to deport those who have come here illegally. I'll believe it when I see it. There was a video online of this this illegal alien, crying about her like court date or whatever. And I don't, obviously I don't think we should, be mean to these people, because I think they've been basically abused by the system as well. They've, Biden basically gave them an invitation to come to the United States. Of course, not an actual invitation, but he basically said that it's wide open. Come through the border. We'll let you in. We're not going to do anything about it. And now, Trump's in office, and now the media is, going to be showing more of these types of videos. Yeah, Lord Charles Thomas says breathing space is the best we can hope for. Very true. It's just there's not much more. There's some possible victories. This, as I said, maybe we'll get some deportations out of this. Maybe not. I doubt it. Probably a very small amount, if any. But the media have already pushing this sort of the narrative that this is cruel. Though, of course, we must remember that, this person who's, crying about how she probably won't be let in or something like that, that she put all this work into it. This illegal aliens are hurting the American worker. They're committing other crimes, not just the fact that they've come over the border illegally. That's a crime unto itself, which I think, if you believe in the rule of law, if you believe that we should that are that if you actually believe in what supposedly the country's supposed to be about, from even the liberal perspective. The liberal perspective is that we the people are making this government, putting this government forward, and we've constantly been voting against illegal immigration or even legal immigration. We've been voting against that for 30, 40 years, and it just continues to get worse. And if Trump could make that even just a little bit better, that would be a very good thing. And hopefully there's something about that, to come, something substantial that we can get out of it. But, we get to, we maybe get more free speech, and hopefully even YouTube. Maybe YouTube might actually become more pro free speech in the future. Maybe Trump's presidency will be a part of that, because I think that's one of those things that even sort of the you know the sort of Republicans that nobody likes, for the most part, many of them, I think, would still push for free speech to be moved because it is beneficial to them in getting elected. But it will also be beneficial for people with outside voices, people like this, in this sphere, like this channel, to make, hopefully they can stop censoring us and help us, and actually the cream of the crop will rise to the top, and it will be maybe a fair battle. That would be nice. That'd be nice to have. So will it be a golden age? No, it really won't be a golden age. It might be materially something, a boost. We might rise out of basically this economic downturn under Trump, and that's very possible, but it is not going to be a golden age when it comes to the things that matter, the spiritual, the so we're still very divided on all things religion, on all things moral. We obviously can't agree even on the basic things like when life begins. We can barely agree on what's a man, what's a man, and what's a woman. These types of things are so basic that just battling over this is a ridiculous thing unto itself. So I appreciate everybody that's listened, and I'm glad that we can at least not have a Kamala Harris inauguration. That would have been much more depressing. So so this will be, obviously this type of thing, if you're listening onto a podcast, this will come up the day after I've streamed, and then Wednesday and Friday I will have Wednesday and Friday I will have videos, and then next week we'll start a schedule where it be Monday and Wednesday I'll be releasing videos. Friday I'll have a live stream. I'm not sure about what the time will always be for that. We'll see. The Lord Charles Thomas says the H-1B fiasco with Musk and Ramaswamy proved definitively that we cannot rely on this new counter elite, and that they will come down on us when their interests fundamentally contradict ours. Very true. That is at the heart of our situation. That is at the sort of the most difficult aspect, that's why I'm thinking, I'm more on the side of this isn't a counter elite. This is just a breakaway elite. Sort of, they have some of the same motivations. They have some of the same goals of our previous, of the previous people in charge, of the mainstays that have built sort of and funded sort of the Clinton campaign, Biden's campaign. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg was a big funder in that sort. The Obama years, basically the destruction of the country had been supported by many of this, supposed elite that now backs Trump. But of course, this is just because, when you get closer and closer to destruction, people start jumping ship, trying to get to more stable waters. And if anything, it just proves that these are the people that are trying to get some stability. And that stability will be good for us only in the realm of breathing room and spreading our messages. So thank you, everyone. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And God bless everyone. Bye.